Roll, please.
Kathy Pucci.
Here.
Tony DeMarco.
Here.
Ron Van Kirk.
Mr. Van Kirk was at our Finance Committee meeting earlier this evening. He had to go to work briefly. He will rejoin us probably within the next half hour.
Colin Gallagher.
Here.
Katie Gallagher.
Here.
Kevin Tansky.
Here.
Tom Murphy.
Here.
Okay, will you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have 3 sets of minutes to approve this evening. The first is from our special meeting of July 22nd. We need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
To approve, Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk. Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
The next set of minutes is from our special meeting of August 26th.
Move to approve. Second.
To approve, Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, the next set is from our regular meeting of September 9th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
To approve, Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, I do want to make an announcement regarding our next council meeting. The usual date of our meeting would be on Monday, October 14th, which is Columbus Day. So because of the holiday, we meet the following day, which is Tuesday, October 15th. However, we're going to have to change our time. Instead of beginning at 7 p.m., we will be starting our regular meeting at 7:30. The reason for this change is because this is also the same day that our school board meets. And since we share the same recording equipment with them, if we want to be able to provide our residents with the recording of the meeting, we need to push ours back a little bit. As of right now, we are anticipating that the Finance Committee will meet at 7 o'clock. If we end up with a more lengthy agenda, we will adjust accordingly. We will also make all of the necessary public notifications for both of these meetings. All right, at this time, we're going to have a brief presentation on the foreclosure assistance program through Common Pleas Court, and we're very honored this evening to have with us Judge Nancy First, who is the administrative and presiding judge, and Andrea Knast, who is a foreclosure mediator, and Sue Eve. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor, Madam Council President, members of council, ladies and gentlemen this evening. Thank you so much for giving us a few minutes. September has been designated Save Our Home Month. 5 years ago, in response to the foreclosure crises that the court saw and the community experienced, the late Chief Justice Thomas Moyer looked to the courts and said, is there any way that we can help individuals to avoid foreclosure, to help them stay in their homes? We then put together what we call the Foreclosure Mediation Program. And I'm happy to recognize tonight and have here tonight our program director, Andrea Knast. It is a program that if individuals receive a foreclosure summons in the mail, there also will be an application and an instruction and advisement. Please don't leave your home when you receive a foreclosure notice, but instead look into options that might help you either reformulate your mortgage or somehow redo your mortgage, or if you can't do that, find a way to gracefully exit your home so that you aren't left with the extra bills and the responsibilities that come with that. We are happy to say that in the 5 years in this program that we have, for those that are in the mediation process, we've helped nearly 6,000 people stay in their homes. So we've had about a 65% success rate. And it may not seem like a lot considering what our community has faced in the last few years. It does make make a difference to communities. So with that, I'm going to turn the program over for a brief description of what you need to do. And if you don't know, perhaps if you're not yourself having a problem, you may know of someone who is. Ms. Canast?
Thank you, Judge. And I want to thank Council for having us out this evening. And like the Judge said, our goal really is to spread the message about the foreclosure mediation program and foreclosure prevention resources out there for county residents. And there are two things that we really want to touch on. Number one, stay in the home. So absolutely, if you are facing troubles, don't leave your home, because there are options for help. And then the second thing is to reach out for help. There have been so many changes just in the past couple of years related to foreclosure prevention and loss mitigation services offered by banks and servicers, that even if someone in the past maybe has reached out for help to their bank or their servicer or whoever they're making their payments to, and that company told them that there was nothing that they could do to help them, guidelines may have changed. There may be more programs available now. So if that person is still in their home and still would like to try and keep their home, they should reach out for help again. And to that end, we have a program that we're very proud of with the court. We bring a property owner and a servicer from the bank or plaintiff in person to sit down face to face and try and work something out. A couple of things to help property owners. Number one, start saving money. It's difficult if you face a financial hardship, because once you're back on your feet, sort of everybody's knocking at the same door. But really try and save as much money as you can. And then the second thing is to keep all of your financial documentation sort of in one place. So start a folder, keep pay stubs, keep bank statements, keep utility bills, because those are the types of things that your bank or servicer will be looking for. I've brought with me tonight some cards, our request form for mediation. I brought the notice form that goes out with a summons and complaint, and also our mediation brochure. And there's a lot of good information and contact numbers here. But again, we just want to encourage property owners to reach out for help. There are avenues available. And like the judge said, even if we can't look for a retention option, or even if that's not your goal to keep the house, we can look for that graceful exit so that, a property is not sitting vacant and abandoned for the rest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Helping us get the word out.
Okay, next we'll move on to our public session. If anyone has anything to say for the good and welfare of the City of Brooklyn, please step forward up to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record, and please observe our 5-minute time limit.
Good evening. My name is Earl Blome. I live at 4720 Forest Edge Drive. Thanks for this opportunity to speak tonight. When evaluating a community as to its desirability to move by families and business, there are many factors to consider, including safety, services, taxes, and etc. But I believe the single most important factor is the quality and the strength of the school system. Brooklyn has a very good school system today, but this will change dramatically if the renewal levy in November fails. This is a renewal levy, which means no additional taxes for the school. If this levy fails, our children, school, and city will face a disaster. The school faces a loss of quality personnel, the elimination of extracurricular services and activities such as art, music, athletics, and a shorter school day, and a reduction to the minimum core curriculum. Is this what we want for our children? Is this what we want for our city? We owe our children the opportunity to succeed, the opportunity to receive a quality education from our schools. At the last council meeting, Mr. Murphy gave an analogy that the school levy was like buying a car. Once you have completed your car payments, you are done paying. This analogy is completely wrong. The money that the school receives from the levy is for ongoing expenses that are there tomorrow, next week, next year, and are continuous. These expenses include personnel costs, maintenance, utilities, textbook, extracurricular activities, transportation, and all the other costs associated with running our school and providing our children with a quality education. These costs do not go away like a car payment. Let me give you another analogy that reflects the true conditions. Let's assume you're running a household and your weekly expenses amount to $10, but your total income is $7. In addition, your house is falling apart, needs a new roof, the walls are deteriorating, and it needs major repairs and replacement. This is the situation our school faces when we passed the levy and bond issue in the past. Now the school has the necessary money to continue and make repairs, provided they do not lose any other money. In the case of your household, you now have the money for necessary repairs and additional expenses. Now let's look at the $7 part of the income that you already had. Of that income, let's be generous and assume that the state is providing $2, leaving $5 of needed income from other sources. What would the loss of this $5 in income do to you in running your household? This $5 is analogous to the money that the school presently receives from this renewable levy, a levy with no new taxes, money which will disappear if we do not renew this levy. If this levy fails, it would be disastrous for our city, schools, and most importantly, for our children. If we do not provide sufficient money to meet the minimum educational needs of our children, the state could place us on fiscal emergency, which takes us down to the bare minimum educational opportunities. The state will not give us additional money as they consider Brooklyn a rich community. If Brooklyn still does not fund the minimum educational requirements for our children, the state could tell Brooklyn, you're not meeting your financial requirements to meet the minimal educational requirements of your children. So we are going to merge you with a school system that has lots of money. What adjacent school system has lots of money, recently passed a $15 million school levy, and has over $1 billion operational budget? It is Cleveland. We could be merged with the Cleveland school system, a system that met 0 of the state educational requirements out of 24. They did not meet a single educational requirements in this past state report. In addition, we will be subject to the Cleveland school tax rate, which will significantly increase our property taxes, and we will have nothing to say about it.
Mr. Bloom, if you could wrap it up.
Okay.
A couple of seconds to wrap it up, please.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take it so long. I ask each of you to publicly support the upcoming school levy, which contains no new taxes, but as a renewable levy. Don't let our children down. Thank you.
Tom Damsky, 9625 Melody Lane, resident of Brooklyn for 32 years. Excuse me if I'm a little out of it because I'm facing surgery. First, I want to start the year off with accolades. I want to congratulate Council, especially Chief Melky, on implementing Code Red. Code Red is the internal code among legal officials, firemen, and medics. It's known to laymen as Reverse 911. On August 14th, After a few years that I've made inquiries, council released funds, and it is now reality. I encourage all residents to sign up for this, especially residents that have a physical handicap or live alone, etc. It's already been put to good use by Mr. Verba and others, and I'm certain in the future, should we have bad weather, it will be greatly used. Speaking of Mr. Verba, in my opinion, he's the man for the job. Through the last few years, I have asked Mr. Verba on occasions for work, and he was always there. And recently, I had a neighbor behind me who was sick and had a bad apple tree. This was causing a deer problem. I helped the neighbor cut it down. Normally, I don't ask for a special pickup. This was on a Monday. I asked Mr. Verba if he would make the exception. Within an hour later, it was picked up and gone. Thank you, Mr. Verba. It's fortuitous that I'm here tonight. I also want to talk about foreclosures. I want to make council aware of a article in the business section of the Plain Dealer, August 1st, 2013, and I'm going to hit the highlights. California City will be the first in the U.S. to test this strategy. The power of eminent domain has traditionally worked against homeowners who can be forced to sell their property to make way for a new highway or shopping mall. Richmond is about to become the first city in the nation to try eminent domain as a way to stop foreclosures. The results will be closely watched by both Wall Street banks, which have vigorously opposed the use of eminent domain to buy mortgages and reduce homeowner debt, and a host of cities across the country that are considering emulating Richmond. Before council, I talked to the, I do not know your name, sir?
Ed Fitzgerald.
Mr. Fitzgerald. I asked briefly about his opinion. He gave another insight. He said most of these properties are owned out of state by a ghost owner. He said if you could find a financial officer of the bank that is involved in the property, he cited an example, I believe in Lakewood, where they issued a summons, and would you believe 2-3 weeks later, there was no problem. I'm asking council to consider whether it be eminent domain or another means. And I realize eminent domain causes legal ramifications left and right. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's 12 or 15 foreclosures in Brooklyn. I would not even want to see one. There's a property on Idlewood that's been going for 6-7 years. I believe Council President Pucci made a comment before summer session that they're asking the land bank to raise it, and they're still in that process. I don't want to see any property in Brooklyn. I had a sad experience when I first moved in of having a person under Section 8. They literally ruined the property. And when I asked the building director at the time, he said he couldn't go on the property. Well, I went. Their hedges were 14 feet. They were changing oil and spilling it on the sidewalk. They cracked the door. They broke windows. Weeds. I spent the whole day cleaning it up. I don't want anyone in this city to go through what I had to. It's also fortuitous that we heard today about the closure mediation program, which is a step in the right direction. There is a judge, I believe his name is Bianca, in Cleveland. He has made it his career to go after these property owners. And if you heard the news just the other day, one of the largest persons across the nation has been found guilty. Big deal. They store millions of dollars. They ruin the property and life of people. And maybe they get 6 years at the most under current law. Meanwhile, they got their millions stashed somewhere else.
Excuse
so
me,
much
Mr.
for that.
Lipsky, if you could wrap it up, if you could take a few seconds
all
to
right.
wrap it up, please.
I asked indulgence for maybe 2 minutes, please. School levy. Thank you, Mr. Blum. Your comments were very, very astute. I'm going to hit the highlights. Here's the official count. 7,358 registered voters. In August, there was 1,250 that voted. This is 16.51%. For the levy, 601. Against the levy, 612. 11 votes. I think in this city has always come to the rescue of the school. In 1999, I had 2 kids, one that graduated in 96 and one graduated in 99. I became actively involved and I ran for the school board. As Mr. Blom said, we were in not only state emergency, which required that you have to pass the tax. We passed the tax. We said in the end of 3 years we would not renew it. We didn't. Also at the same time, we were in academic watch. I would hate to see us go backwards. For 11 votes, as Mr. Blom says, and we all know, when we went to school, our parents and grandparents faced the financial burdens too. And I realize there are seniors that are hurting for medication, etc., but we have to pass this. Out of 8 districts, only 1 district voted against it. The majority was absentee ballots. People, we have to pass this. And I'm going to make a very short summary here. This is a 5-year forecast. Mr. Farian, I have known through the years, is excellent. The average annual percent of change is minus 6.9%. If the levy does not pass in January, there will be a cut of $1,246,648. That mushrooms to the next fiscal year, 2015, to $2,058,966. The following year, $5,193,847. The following year, $8,583,641. And the following year, the 5-year forecast, $12,194,000. I rest my case. People in the past, the residents have always done the right thing. I'm asking you to do the right thing in November. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything to say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn?
Jerry Brown, 4790 Elizabeth Lane. Mr. Singer of the school board attempted to influence your vote on the November 5th renewal levy by making the statement on August 20th. Your property taxes aren't going to go up or down, quite frankly, by not renewing this levy. But his errant comment got exposed. He finally admitted to me in a note he mailed me that your taxes will go down if the renewal fails, but only after his misstatement was brought before City Council. He also said in the note he would clarify his error at the September board meeting, but he didn't. He failed to correct the serious misinformation he told the public at the previous board meeting. It would appear the treasurer, Marty Farian, Superintendent Walker, and the entire board are all content to allow this falsehood to perpetuate. When I called Mr. Singer 6 days after his August 20th comment, he was still standing by his position, meaning not one of them had gotten him to correct his view on the issue. And none of them has publicly acknowledged at a board meeting that your taxes will go down if it fails, allowing his original statement to stand as an untruth you would continue to be misled by. I now question their intent more than ever. In the days leading up to the May bond levy vote, the school board and administration told the community a story of doom and gloom should the issue not pass. This issue consisted of a list of items they said were needed in the bond and a levy to maintain operations. The voters came to the rescue with the impression the problems had been resolved. This impression was formed from statements like this one. This is from an article that came out about the levy shake just prior to the vote on May 7th. Superintendent Cynthia Walker joined members of the school board and faculty at the rally. Passage of the levy bond issue will ensure that school programs like band and athletics remain part of the curriculum. The voters were also assured that economy of scale was a big benefit of the new program. Now, just months later, with the same doom and gloom story, they want voters to renew an existing emergency levy for operations, on top of the new permanent levy they were just given for operations in May. Again, we were misled. This means in May, they burdened taxpayers with 36 years of taxes for new bond items before they had enough money to meet obligations for operations. This is putting the cart before the horse. Worse yet, among the bond items is artificial turf for the athletic field, which the Cleveland Browns don't even have, and a new press box. No responsible person or group asked for money, claiming to be in a financial emergency, and then spends a good portion of it on luxury items, knowing they still don't have enough to meet basic necessities. Then comes right back and asks for more, claiming to be in financial trouble again. As voters, we need to make informed decisions. Student performance is eroding. An elementary school building is going to be demolished that just this year won a media contest as a cool school. It is currently serving its purpose, and in my opinion, as an engineer with 35 years of building design and evaluation, could continue to do so. We are being misled with false statements, excuses, and what I consider fiscal irresponsibility. The time has come for the school system to make internal corrections, and not just by focusing on what they can take away from the students. The time has come to stop telling taxpayers to dig deep into their wallets for their hard-earned money. The children of this community deserve a quality education. The people of this community deserve better than this. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything to say for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn? Okay. Let the record reflect that Mr. Van Kirk has joined us. Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to reports of committees, commissions, and boards. The first one is the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee did meet earlier this evening at 6:30. We did recommend approval for all of the items on our agenda relating to finance, and I will go in more detail when they are read into the record. Okay, next is Recreation Board, Mr. Tansky.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. Good evening. I was asked by some residents about the restrooms in the rink lobby. Mrs. McGinty, can you explain what renovations are being made to the restrooms? Basically what I want to know is when we're going to renovate it, what are we doing? Are we taking the whole thing apart and putting everything new in like we did with the senior center?
Press and hold it in just for a few seconds.
Got it. Sorry about that. Right now, we just have the architect. He was just in the measure the other day to give us an estimate, and then once we do that, we'll have to have companies come in to see if it could be under the $25,000 threshold, and if so, then we'll go out to bid. But it's not going to be complete gut. Right now it's going to be new partitions, ADA compliant, new sinks, new fixtures, new toilets, painting, flooring. Oh, okay.
I appreciate it. I have one more other question. Do we have a recent update on the retention status for Silver Sneakers? Do we get any updates yet?
We haven't gotten any recently. I will get them to you if we do get them, but she's far behind. She was on vacation.
Thank you. The next Recreation Board meeting will be on Monday, October 21st at 7 p.m. in the Mayor's Court. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is Planning Commission, Mrs. Katie Gallagher.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. The Planning Commission will meet on Thursday, October 3rd at 6 p.m. in the City Hall Conference Room to hear a request from Excel Sign Group to install a wall-mounted identification sign for Our House Furniture located at 7440 Brook Park Road. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next is Economic Development Committee. We are attempting to schedule a meeting, and we have a tentative date of Wednesday, October 2nd. We do not have a time confirmed yet. There will be a public notice issued once that is confirmed. Okay.
Mrs. Pucci, may we recognize?
Yes, you may.
On economic development, we did get the one report from our economic development director. Are there any for?
You mean
back to the beginning of the year?
minutes?
Right. We got one or two sets.
I can double check. I believe she thought she was missing just the minutes from the summer, but I can have her go back and resend everything.
If you could, thank you.
Sure. I'm going to make a note. Okay. Now we have council reports, and this evening we begin with Mr. DeMarco.
I would just like to make a couple comments regarding the upcoming election. There are various candidates up for election or re-election on city council, and obviously issues as it relates to the school. First, I would like to say that it's nice to see some new names of candidates out there looking for your support and our support to be on city council. So I've met a few of the candidates. I have not met all of them. And I'm just asking everybody to give these new candidates an opportunity, hear what they have to say, and see if they make sense for you to support going forward. I do find it a little curious that we have a couple folks up for election this year. One's a sitting council person whose term is not even up yet, have not served out their full term, and another candidate for council that is related to the mayor. And I've had several residents approach me during the summer, very upset, and I could agree with them. I do not think in this day and age, 2013 and going into 2014, that we should have an elected candidate be any relation to the mayor or any other employment opportunity in the city of Brooklyn. This is just my opinion. And finally, Mr. Blom, I can't say it any more eloquently than you did. As most of you know, I supported the new levy earlier this year, and I'm absolutely supporting the renewal of the levy in November. As I've said several times, I believe in a quality public school education. I'm a product of Brooklyn Public Schools, and I believe for the long-term health of our community and for our children that this is the right thing to do. So I ask everybody to consider, it's kind of a little odd that we would support the schools with funding to build a new facility and then not provide them the funds to operate the facility in a manner that it needs to be in the 2013 era. So again, I would ask everyone to consider your financial situation, consider its effects on the community and our children, and if you can support the levy, please do so. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Van Kirk.
Yes, just something briefly. I'd like to echo Mr. DeMarco's remarks about making sure that you do consider all the candidates. And of course, if you're a resident of Brooklyn and have lived in Brooklyn for I believe it's 3 years or longer, you are welcome to run for public office. And I would encourage, obviously the deadline is passed for this election, but I would encourage anyone to run for public office and for everyone to take a strong look at each candidate and then vote accordingly. And that goes for anything that's on the ballot, whether it be a candidate or whether it be an issue. Obviously, everyone has their opinion, and everyone's free to express their opinion, but it's the duty and responsibility of each voter to take a look at each candidate and each issue and decide what's best for them and for their family. And that's what I would strongly encourage people to do. Obviously, election's a couple months away, but it is coming up here quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Colleen Gallagher.
Thank you. Good evening. We have a request from our Service Director, John Verba, to replace trees on Archmere, Winter Lane, and Southwood for $11,000. Which the Finance Committee approved tonight. But the problem is we need to come up with a better solution for a long-term maintenance of these trees. This weekend I had a resident tell me that her neighbor had her tree removed from the city of Brooklyn. Next question, can I have mine removed? We've had some problems with roots of trees cracking sidewalks these past couple of years. Another resident complained that the city of Brooklyn removed a $5,000 beautiful tree from his street, and he became physically sick. There are plenty of reasons to remove a tree from your property, but sometimes the tree has a treatable disease or a pest issue, and homeowners shouldn't automatically consider tree removal. We've had many trees in the city of Brooklyn that have improved curb appeal and property value. Trees provide power savings, privacy, shade, and are environmentally friendly. This is an election year, and we have had a certain people who are pushing to wipe out all the trees in the city of Brooklyn. I had a resident who told me that grinding roots cause fungus and kills trees. I'm not a certified arborist, and I do not know the right or wrong reasons to cut down a tree on the city's property. But I do know this, that without a policy in place, we will be using our employees for cutting down trees, taking care of them, putting in new sidewalks at the city's expense, which is going to be economically impossible for the city in the future. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mrs. Katie Gallagher?
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. Good evening. I hope everyone is having a good start to their week. My Monday has had its ups and downs. I received a call from my colleague Tom Murphy, who alerted me to a typo in this month's edition of my newsletter. I mistakenly reported the school district's renewal would cost residents 78 cents per month for every $100,000 valuation in their home. In fact, the renewal will cost 78 cents per year for every $100 in valuation of their home. I try hard each month to provide residents with accurate and objective information in my newsletter, and I'm very sorry I made this misstatement. I want to thank Mr. Murphy for bringing this to my attention so that I could correct the record. On a positive note, this morning I heard some great news from the Ohio Department of Transportation that Brooklyn was selected for Type 2 noise barriers along I-480 in between Ridge Road and Tiedemann. These barriers are tentatively scheduled for construction starting in the summer of 2016. In the meantime, ODOT will coordinate with the city about aesthetics like texture, color, and icons for the barriers. I'm certain those residents who live near the highway and have been affected by the increased noise levels over the last few years will be happy about this news. Thank you again to Kevin Tansky, Colin Gallagher, Joe Polidori, and my husband for helping me collect signatures to allow this project to get in front of the Federal Highway Administration for review and fund approval. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Tansky.
Good evening. I received a complaint from a resident in regards to a garbage can missing. Mr. Verba, if a resident finds that a garbage can is missing, can you explain to us what the resident must do, and is the person required to fill out a police report?
Yes, the garbage can was issued to the resident by the city of Brooklyn. If it is not there, then we need to file a stolen property report with the police department. Then we get a copy of it, and then we'll have to issue them another can.
Thank you. I just want to commend Katie Gallagher. Great success with ODOT on getting those barriers along 480. I've walked many houses along that area, and I've heard the noise myself and gotten many complaints from that noise and asking me about the barriers. So that's very good news. I applaud you in your efforts, and I really appreciate it. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Tom Murphy.
Thank you. The complaints I get from citizens, mostly and lately, concern the tax levy, the 9.2 tax levy. The citizens they complained to me, didn't realize the 9.2 would be followed by a 7.9 renewal. Now, I do disagree with people that have come up and said that it's a renewal and it's not going to cost you any money. And this was a 5-year tax, the 7.9. It expires, just like a car payment or a house payment would expire. You don't have to make them anymore. But if you vote to renew it, you will be renewing approximately $200 a year. That's followed by the $300, approximate $300 a year, you okayed 4 or 5 months ago. For those of you that don't know or watch the school board meetings, Mr. Singer on the school board made a comment about not voting for council people that are not backing the issue. He's talking about me. I'm not backing this issue. In my former life, I was in charge of predatory lending for the Attorney General's office. And in an adjoining county, we had $200 to $300 million in fraud for lending fraud. In Cuyahoga County, that number was really dwarfed. Judge First and the crew that was here tonight are making a concerted effort to help those whose properties are in jeopardy. You may be able to get a loan restructure or an exit strategy, and it's important that you do this. I realize a lot of people are upside down on the houses, but they are trying to help. If you're upside down, please, please make the phone call. That's all I have.
Thank you. I, too, would like to thank Judge Nancy First and Ms. Canast for attending this evening. It's my understanding that there are many people who qualify for this assistance, but because they don't know about it, they're not taking advantage of it. So I would encourage everyone, whether it's something that's impacting you or someone you know, to please encourage them to get the information. They left information out at the reception desk in City Hall. They will also be emailing me a link that we're going to put up on our website for people to access this information. I have an update on Parma Hospital. I had contacted Mr. DePiro, who's the liaison for governmental relations, to express concerns that employees and residents had regarding their proposed alignment with university hospitals. The concerns related to coverage issues because of the fact that some plans with Medical Mutual, specifically the SuperMed program, which also includes the program we offer our employees, they specifically exclude University Hospital. I did receive a response, and they do not anticipate any changes in Parma Community General Hospital's participation in Medical Mutual's SuperMed network as a result of this alignment. Most of the University Hospital system and aligned providers are in the SuperMed network, and some examples they gave are St. John's, West Shore, Southwest General, Geauga, Richmond, Conneaut, and it goes on. The areas where University Hospital does not participate in the SuperMed plan are their main campus, their Bedford Medical Center, and some of the specialists who practice at the main campus. The reason these providers do not participate is not based on University Hospital's choice. Cleveland Clinic Foundation and Medical Mutual struck an exclusive agreement almost 20 years ago, which remains in place today, and that excludes those University Hospital facilities. University Hospitals has found that many of those enrolled in SuperMed still want to obtain care from the excluded providers, and they are able to do this by using their non-network benefits. They have an insurance assist line that they help people with, and they also mentioned that they have patients who take advantage of the University Hospital facility at the main campus once their out-of-network deductibles are met. So they do try and find ways of working with patients who want to go to the main campus, but the bottom line is their proposed alignment with Parma Hospital should not impact any of us being able to access Parma Hospital or their providers. Regarding the proposed affiliation, I know that the mayors from the founding communities have expressed concern about their communities getting something out of this deal. I do think it's unrealistic to expect that there will be any monetary consideration such as might occur if this was an actual purchase of the hospital. I mentioned to Mayor Balbier and also to Mr. DePiero that currently University Hospitals does assist our Brooklyn Safe Routes to School Committee with providing either incentives or sometimes it's bicycle helmets. I'm also aware that in the communities with University Hospital facilities, they have started wellness programs that involve health fairs, health screenings, and various webinars on health topics. My suggestion was an expansion of their wellness initiatives in the founding communities, which I see as a win-win for both the hospital and all of our communities. This could be accomplished either directly with their participation in a wellness initiative or through a wellness grant to each community. Since this is an item that has to be negotiated between Parma Hospital and University Hospitals, I can't elaborate any further. However, I'm very hopeful that this is something that we will be able to get accomplished. I would like to encourage our residents to patronize the businesses that are in the construction zone on Ridge Road. This has been a very tough time for them, and we want to make sure that they all remain viable. So if you already patronize these businesses, please continue to do so. If you don't, please take a look at what is up in that area, and perhaps there's a business that provides goods or services that you may need. So even though it may be a little bit inconvenient, please continue to patronize these local businesses. Regarding the school levy renewal, I too would like to encourage residents to support this renewal. These funds are critical to the daily operations of our schools and will not add any additional taxes to what we are currently paying. We are all in this together. To be a strong community, you need a strong school system, just like a good school system needs a strong and stable city. We all know that a good school system is a key factor someone uses in making a decision to purchase a home. We are all in this together, and we should be working together for the betterment of our community. I want to share with you that every single time the city has gone to the schools to ask either for their support of or for them not to object to abatements that we have offered as economic development incentives, they have cooperated with us each and every time, even though it means a loss in revenue for them. They understand the big picture, and they look at what is best for Brooklyn as a whole, not just through the narrow vision of, this is going to mean less money for them. I don't want to see us take us one step forward and two back. Our school system has gone through several rounds of reducing expenditures, and they run as a lean organization. Their per pupil expenditures are fourth lowest in the county. I understand that there are concerns about the recent report card. The state has once again changed how schools are rated, and they are in a transition period while they align themselves to the new standards. They have concrete steps that they have already implemented and will continue to implement as they address these concerns. Many other school systems also saw a drop in their ratings. For example, Westlake has 3 Ds, and I know Strongsville has a couple Fs. I don't think the report card is the only way that we should be judging our schools. Certainly, it's a very important component. However, I know for a fact that there are great things going on in our schools. I also know that a lot of the extras that are being offered are either in the past they were funded by grants or currently being funded by grants, because the administration has taken a very aggressive stance on pursuing any and all outside revenue for programming in the schools. I understand that not everyone will agree with me, and I respect their viewpoints, but I want to tell you that I did work in a community that had trouble passing new money, and they basically went down to the bare bones, only offering the minimums. The students were released at 1 o'clock because there were no extracurriculars, and it had a very negative impact on that community. They eventually did pass new money, which brings me to my final point on this, and that is that something that isn't widely known is that in the governor's budget that passed in July, there's a provision in there where there's currently a provision where 12.5% of our property taxes are paid by the state of Ohio. The governor, through his budget, enacted a new provision which states that after the special election of August 6th, any new money that is passed by a community, and it just doesn't have to be for your schools, it could be schools, it could be your city, any new money at all, the state will no longer pick up the 12.5% that they currently pay. So I'm not saying that this is the only reason that someone should vote for this levy, but I do believe at some point, if the renewal fails, that new money will pass, and if that happens, we will be paying 100% of it. We will lose the 12.5%. All current levies are grandfathered in, so as long as they're renewed, the state will continue picking up the 12.5%. If they're either not renewed or there are additional levies put on, the state will no longer pay that. So it's just one other thing to consider. And I do want to respond to something that was said, and that is that I attended every meeting and every presentation that was made when the new money was passed in May, and they were always very clear and very upfront that everything they were projecting was based on the assumption that all the renewals that they have coming up passed. So, you know, the position that they were irresponsible saying pass new money to build something even though that they were not going to have the money to operate it, that is false. They always made it very clear that they were counting on the renewals passing. And I did want to also clarify something that Mr. Adamski stated about the land bank, and that is there is a home in his area that is in foreclosure, and because we have our own city land bank, we get notified when it comes up on the sheriff's auction. So we get first chance at it if we want to take it into our land bank. We are considering it. The home or the garage, the roof is completely caved in. It would take an awful lot of money to put into this house. So that was one of the things we talked about, was if the house had to be raised, because the city at this point is not in the business of taking homes and rehabbing them. I know some urban cities are able to do that. Right now, we're not in the position where we can do that. One of the ideas was, because it is on a smaller plot, and it does butt right up against 480, that perhaps it could be a community garden. But I did just want to clarify that that's what the situation was with that particular property. That completes my report. Mr. Murphy, did you want to be recognized?
Yes, and in the interest of clarity, I did want to at least bring it up. Katie Gallagher and I have talked about this. It does say, and she did read correctly from the ballot, it's 78 cents per $100 value of your home. I don't think that that can be correct, but that's how it is on the ballot. So the school, I think, has to address that, because if it was 78 cents per $100 value, that would be $7.80 per thousand, $78 per 10,000, and $780 per 100,000. It just can't be correct, unless I got it wrong.
I haven't seen the ballot language, but I'm sure that's something we can.
Is that correct,
at.
Katie?
I read exactly what the ballot says.
So, I mean, it has to be. I want you to be informed. Be an informed voter, and that's not clear to me. And I don't think it's correct.
Okay, well, that's something we can probably get clarified for the next meeting from the schools.
I have a meeting tomorrow with Mrs. Walker,
Walker.
and I'll mention that to her.
Okay. Next we move on to the mayor's report. Mayor Balbier.
Thank you. I wasn't going to talk about these things, but Mrs. Pucci brought up about Parma Hospital. I've had numerous meetings with the Parma officials. I've also met with the UH officials, and there's 6 cities that started Parma Hospital, and Brooklyn's one of them. 5 of us mayors have met, and we're not happy with the deal. It seems like the cities are getting left out of this. And Mrs. Pucci mentioned about the wellness grant. Well, I got a phone call Friday, and they told me that UH is considering giving a $50,000 wellness grant to each of the cities. So they're on the right track and trying to help us. Mr. DeMarco made a mention about my sister-in-law running for council. I said, first of all, I had absolutely nothing to do with it, and it's a free country. Anybody can run. And right now we have a mother and daughter on council. For many years we had a father and son on council, and it all worked out very well, so I don't see any big problem with a sister-in-law being on council. I just wanted to keep everybody informed that our finance director has left, and I've had 20 resumes already, and I've done 7 interviews, and I have another one scheduled for Thursday. So I'm not trying to rush this. I want to look and try to get the best person. So I'm happy that we're getting so many resumes, because I think last time I only had 7. So 20 is pretty good. Our part-time building inspector has turned in his resignation. He's been offered a full-time job in Medina. So we're going to be looking to fill this position, and hopefully we might make it a full-time position if council approves it. Ridge Road, as you saw, is moving along pretty good. The other day they started at 5 a.m. to pour that 1 lane of concrete, and they were done by noon. So I know it's an inconvenience, and it's going to keep on being an inconvenience, but they're moving along pretty well. And Mr. Verba had a meeting with them the other day, and they said they have some work that they can do during the winter time to speed things up, which we didn't expect them to do. We thought they'd only be working during the construction season, but they have some things they can do during the winter that'll speed up when they start up again in the spring. I was at a meeting at KeyBank the other day, and they just keep growing. They're now our largest employer, and their executives told me that they said, Mayor, we're going to have to start paving some more grass over there for parking lot. I said, that's fine. Just keep paving and keep bringing the people out there. So every time they bring someone out from downtown, it's to our benefit. I received a note from ODOT about, I'm sure you've seen these things when you went along the turnpike or something, they have Adopt a Highway. They would like to start that in our area. I'll just read you a couple sentences. It says, Adopt a Highway program requirement is simple. Volunteer organizations would agree to clean up a 2-mile stretch of interstate, highway, or interchange in Cuyahoga Lake or Geauga County area for at least 4 times per year over a 2-year period. So I left a copy of this letter at the front desk, so any organization that might want to adopt part of a highway, just call City Hall and we'll give you the right numbers to call. I also received a letter today, or a notice. The Parma Collaborative, they're collecting coats, and they also collected food for they gave meals to our children during the summertime if they qualified. And if you have a coat or a slightly used coat and you want to take it to them, they're located at 11212 Snow Road in Parma. If you go down Hauser in the snow and you turn right, it's that school on the right-hand side down a little bit. That's where they're located. And they're collecting, they expect that they will need about 1,000 coats this year for the Parma, Brooklyn, Parma Heights area. And that's all I have, Mrs. Pucci.
Okay, thank you. Next, we move on to reports of directors, and I believe this evening we have one, and that is Service Director Verba.
Thank you, Council President Pucci. I would just like to inform the residents that the traffic pattern on Ridge Road will be changed beginning on Wednesday, October 2nd. Traffic will be switched back to the west side of Ridge as construction will then begin on the east side. The aprons and the intersections are going to be poured this week on the westbound side, so all those businesses and residents should be back in. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the requests. First is a liquor permit request, and this is from AMC Theater, which is up at Ridge Park Square. They are renovating the movie theater, and as part of their renovations, they're going to be adding a restaurant, and they are asking for a D51, is that it? A D5I, which is restaurant meeting certain criteria, offers full-course meal, appetizer, sandwiches, beer and liquor by the glass from a container. So we need a position of no objection. Would someone like to make a motion to take a position of no objection? Or does anyone have any questions?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, we need a second?
Second.
For a position of no objection, Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Tony DeMarco,
No.
Ron Van Kirk,
No.
Colin Gallagher,
No.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
No.
So what is the?
There's going to be a process that has to be filled out. The city objecting, there's a legal process.
Okay, so it was,
No. There are 4 no's.
Or no.
okay. So that fails 4-3. So I think it's the police chief or,
The police chief and law director will have to
Okay.
file an objection.
okay. All right, next we have authorization for purchase of a copy machine for the fire department. The fire chief is requesting permission to purchase a Xerox 7835 MFD model. The cost is $8,307. This replaces a current machine that is 7 years old and is not able to do color copying. We need a motion to approve this purchase.
Move to approve.
Second.
No, just to approve.
To approve, Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher,
Yes.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, next we have authorization for purchase of trees for the tree planting program. Dear Mayor and members of council, I'm requesting authorization from council for approval to purchase trees for replacement on the tree lawns on Archmere, Winter Lane, and Southwood for an amount not to exceed $11,000. We did discuss this in the Finance Committee meeting. There are 3 different types of trees. The Shade Tree Commission has selected. It's Cleveland Select Pears, Crimson King Maple, and Ginkgo's Autumn Gold. We did have a discussion about formalizing our guidelines on how we handle complaints about trees and the possibility of also strengthening some of our ordinances. So,
I
Mr.
have a question.
Just a second. Mr. Verba is going to provide us with the guidelines that we now follow so that we can memorialize them, so that everyone will be on the same page, and then we will also look at strengthening the ordinances about the trees. Yes, Mr. Tansky.
Question I have, these trees they want to put in the tree lawns, are they going to be a smaller tree as they grow, in other words, not roots that are going to bulge out into the streets or under the sidewalk, so we don't have to go around and spend city money to fix all the damage that the trees are going to do, because we're going to go around, plant trees, and then we're going to go fix the sidewalks to damage. So are these trees?
And we did discuss that in the committee meeting, and Mr. Verba said that the selections that were made were appropriate for the areas. If you want to expand on that, Mr. Verba?
Yeah, for example, on Archmere, those are big tree
I
lawns.
was
So
just
we're,
going to get to that. Archmere,
yeah,
it's a little different.
we're okay on Archmere, and then we selected the trees that would fit the tree lawns according to the selection that is in one of the educational pieces that we have. So if a tree lawn is 4 to 6 feet, it's supposed to be a small tree. 6 to 8's a medium, and then the larger one, 8 feet or more, then we would put a larger one in. So that's a criterion that we went by.
Yeah, I just had the question on it because us putting bigger trees back in and then going out and fixing sidewalks doesn't make any bit of sense, so.
No, I
Okay.
totally agree.
Okay, any other
Thank you.
questions or comments? Okay, we need a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
To approve, Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher,
Yes.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, next we have bid approval for the rec center parking lot. Dear Mayor and members of council, at 12 noon local time on the above date, 5 bids were received and opened for the above referenced project. The engineer's construction cost estimate for this project is $157,446, and the received bids ranged from $117,289.50 to $149,582.50. The bids for all sections of the work are summarized below and attached as a full tabulation of the bids for your review. The first bid was Chagrin Valley Paving. The total bid amount was $117,289.50, which was 25.5% below the engineer's estimate. The next bid was Infinity Paving for a total bid of $121,635, which was 22.7% below the engineer's estimate. The third bid was from Specialized Construction. Total bid amount, $123,264, which was 21.7% below the estimate. Fourth, Ohio Paving, $133,186.80, which was 15.4% below the engineer's estimate. The final bid was Barbicus Construction, $149,582.50, which was 5% below the estimate. After reviewing the bids, we have determined that all bids are responsive to the bid requirements and that the lowest and best bid was submitted by Chagrin Valley Paving Incorporated. Based on our review of the bids and Chagrin Valley Paving's experience record, they have demonstrated the ability to complete projects of this scope and magnitude successfully. Chagrin Valley Paving has not performed work in the city of Brooklyn previously. However, after checking several references in other communities, I have no reservations that they can complete the work as specified. As such, we are recommending award of this contract to Chagrin Valley Paving in the amount of $117,289.50. Very truly yours, Doug Courtney, City Engineer. We need a motion to award the bid to Chagrin Valley Paving.
Motion to award the bid.
Second.
To accept the bid, Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Colleen Gallagher,
Yes.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to our legislation. We have one ordinance this evening. It's ordinance 2013-62, repealing Chapter 551, Assault Weapons, of the Brooklyn Codified Ordinances. If you'll recall, a while back, we had to repeal the legislation that we had previously adopted, which banned people from carrying firearms in our parks. The reason we had to do this was because the state passed legislation and we could not conflict with that. This is pretty much the same scenario. I don't think there's anyone up here who thinks that they want to see assault weapons in the city of Brooklyn. However, if we don't repeal it, it's a lawsuit against the city waiting to happen that would be very expensive. And the mayor did mention that we did receive a telephone call from a resident, or I'm sorry, it was an email from someone basically bringing it to our attention that we still had this on the books and it is in conflict with state law. So we intend to pass this by emergency measure this evening so that we can.
Is there any way that we can get a little more explanation on it? I mean, it's kind of a big deal. Can we put it on first reading?
I recommend you put it on first
Yes.
reading. The law director will be here and can explain anything.
Move to put on first reading then.
Second.
It's on first reading.
Okay. Okay. Any other council member, the mayor, have anything they'd like to say?
Could I be recognized, Ms. Pucci?
Yes, Mr. DeMarco.
In regards to the mayor's comments on candidates and whatnot, I mean, I appreciate how things have been done in the city in the past, but times are changing, and my expectation is, and I hope it's the expectation of a majority of the residents, is that the days of having relatives that are making financial decisions, contractual decisions, that have relatives that are impacted by these abilities to make these decisions need to come to an end. And so I implore all the residents to, again, look at all the candidates and see if they're there to serve the best interests of the residents in the city of Brooklyn. If they are, support them. If you don't think they aren't, then don't support them. That's all I have.
Thank you. I just want to see what council's pleasure is, if we want to go into executive session to have the discussion on the possibility of hiring a full-time assistant, or if we wanted to delay it. The mayor mentioned that he didn't have any real specific information. What's the pleasure?
I would like to meet with Ed and go over it and see what he really needs there,
Okay.
and then get back to council.
Okay,
if that's
that's
all right.
fine. Yes, it is. Okay, then we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
To adjourn, Kathy Pucci,
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Colleen Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Nothing for you to sign.